Duval County voters casting ballots right now in early voting in the primary to choose Jacksonville's next sheriff. 5 candidates met last night at the Jacksonville University Public Policy Institute to answer questions about the city's biggest issues in a forum you watched right here on Channel 4. Joining me on the morning show, Jordan Peterson, Associate Professor of Public Policy at JU. Hey, good morning. Thanks for being here.
Thank you so much.
So Jacksonville has a violent crime problem. It has a growing problem with murders. No secret. Did you hear any new or unique solutions to try and stop the growing tide of those problems?
Sure. So I heard more from the Democratic candidates for sheriff than I did from TK Waters, the Republican candidate. It seemed to me that the line from TK Waters, which makes sense as a co-partisan of the sheriffs in the city for the past 18 years, to say that things aren't really going that badly, it's more or less okay, officer-involved shootings aren't a big problem, whereas the Democratic candidates were a lot readier to emphasize community policing and trying to do outreach. And you even saw some pretty, I think, radical reform suggestions from Tony Cummings, who suggested having a public accountability officer in the sheriff's office itself to kind of monitor what's going on.
There is a general lack of trust in law enforcement these days. I mean, we saw it just yesterday with the threats against the FBI. What about building that community trust?
So I heard a lot of that from Lakeisha Burton, and I think she actually went above and beyond and seized a valuable opportunity by saying what a lot of people were probably already thinking tacitly or implicitly, which is we're doing all this at the first sheriff's election in the wake of the George Floyd shootings and the protests that came thereafter. And she said, not only that's important to remember, but I was there on the front lines. And I think that we need to rebuild trust, and it should no longer be us in the sheriff's office against you who don't trust the police.
When you look at the field of candidates, it seems that TK seems to have the support of the hierarchy in JSO and the old guard. Lakeisha Burton, the rank and file. Did you see among any of the 5 candidates who would bring about big change in JSO?
I think Lakeisha Burton had the clearest attitude that she wanted to change things in the department, and she was very emphatic about reaching out to the community and cited her experience as a zone commander. I think that she was actually shorter on specific proposals, but it's clear that she has her finger on the pulse of the direction that things might be going in the community or in the nation more broadly, and that TK Waters is more about we should maintain the status quo and try to hew what he alleges anyway has been working so far.
Biggest takeaways from last night?
So I would take away that Burton and Waters are the clear frontrunners, right? We have a unitary election. It means that even among 4 Democrats and 1 Republican, you could theoretically have 2 Democrats come out of this election, but it's highly unlikely. I think that those 2 candidates, they've raised more money than anyone else. They both have PAC money, and I think we're likely to see them in the general election in November, and then we'll have another one very shortly thereafter due to the kind of unusual circumstances we're in the sheriff's office right now.
With Waters and Burton being the clear frontrunners, is there anybody that gained some ground in the public's eye?
I think Ken Jefferson was doing his best to remind people that some of the ideas you heard on stage were things he had advocated for in prior campaigns. I'm not sure it'll move the needle just due to the lack of organizational and institutional support that his campaign has vis-a-vis some of the others.
And bottom line is there was a lot of rhetoric last night, which is not unusual in a debate like that. Any clear-cut winner?
I would say Burton did the best job getting her message out, making herself known to the community, and letting everyone know that she stands for change at a time when the public broadly has a relatively large appetite for change.
So where do we go from here after last night's debate as far as the candidates are concerned? Do you think that they take any of the issues that were brought to them and build upon the things that they heard?
I think one thing that all the candidates could do, whether or not they're in that sort of upper echelon or not, is address more clearly what they would do about gun violence. I think that they all, in some ways there's more that unites a lot of those candidates than divides them, as befits the sheriff's office and candidates for that office. They all have a background in the JSO, they're all police, and so in some ways you're not going to see a lot of variation across them, but I think some of them could potentially raise their profile both in the campaign and more generally if they were to take a stronger stand on what we could do about gun violence and illegal guns in general.
Right. Once again, we want to know who you think won. Go to news4jax.com and let us know. Let your voice be heard.